Fellas, if you've ever found yourself confused as to why your wife is upset with you or has an issue with something, but you have no clue what happened, I got you. This video, I got you. Listen, if you're not aware of the one question every wife is asking, I did a whole video on that. I'll drop that at the end. But basically, every wife or most wives are asking the question of their husbands, does he really love me? There's this underlying question through which this filter is what they evaluate every one of your actions, your statements, your behaviors, your language, and if through that filter it is bringing up negative feelings around that question, there's going to be a problem and you may not even know what's going on. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to give you 4 triggers that you may be unaware of that are causing your wife to feel insecure or frustrated with the relationship. Before we jump in, if you haven't downloaded the free guide to intimacy, you'll see a link in the description area below. You want to grab that. If you need a place to strengthen your relationship, listen, our Altered Marriage community is the place that you want to be. You'll see a link below for that as well. All right, let's get into it. 4 ways you may be triggering insecurities or doubt in your wife and be completely unaware, which is why you got a problem and you don't even know why you got the problem that you now have. Number 1 trigger is conflict. For a lot of men, conflict is no big deal. Now, depending on your temperament, some people are conflict avoidant and some people love finding themselves in a conflict. But for most men, conflict is just conflict. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing bigger for most men in conflict other than the fact it's just conflict. But for a lot of women, conflict is now making them think there's something greater going on in the relationship. And so I know some of you ladies, that's not true. You love drama and conflict. But for a lot of women, conflict is going to make them question, does my husband really love me? Is there something wrong with the relationship? Because for a lot of women, they genuinely do desire that their husbands be enjoying and be pleased in a relationship. And when there's conflict, they realize that their husband may be displeased or may be unhappy with something they've done or some part of the relationship. And what that's going to do is it's going to trigger these insecurities and these negative feelings, which then are filtered through the one question they're always asking, does he really love me? Which is going to cause them to be triggered and then cause a problem in a relationship. Now, am I implying you can't have conflict in a relationship? Absolutely not. Conflict is necessary and conflict is healthy for a relationship. I'm simply letting you know, fellas, that when there is conflict, that can be a trigger that triggers the insecurities and negative feelings your wife might be having about the relationships, which means, if you go watch the other video I'll tag at the end of this video, you just need to reassure them after conflict that all is good. Trigger number 2 is withdrawal. Now, this is often tied to conflict because for a lot of men, when there is conflict, their tendency is to withdraw and get some space for a period of time, either to get away from the unwanted negative feelings that they're experiencing or simply to process what's going on in the relationship. For a lot of men, it takes them time to process, what am I feeling? What's going on in the conflict? They can't always tap into their feelings or understand their feelings as quickly as women do, so they'll tend to withdraw to try to figure that out. But again, if the question most women are asking is, does my husband really love me? What's withdrawal going to do? Oh, it's going to confirm those negative feelings. See, he doesn't love me. That's why he's pulling away from me. If he loved me, he'd be coming towards me. That's not the case. Many times men are withdrawing because that space gives them the opportunity to process what's going on so that they can come back later. So men, if that's you, then what you want to do is you want to let them know what you're doing while you're withdrawing and that there's a specific time when you're going to come back and address it. That's the reassurance that they need. And trigger number 3 is silence. Now, you may be the kind of guy that isn't real talkative, but in your silence, you are communicating something whether you know it or not. Most women have a radar for unspoken feelings. They can just sense stuff. So when there's silence, they will often tap into what they believe is the feeling or whatever's going on in their husband's mind. And so what happens again, if we're filtering it through, does he really love me? And there's silence, they're going to read that silence. Most of the time it's something negative, and it's going to cause insecurities in the relationship. When men, you may be thinking, hey, listen, my silence is just me sparing them from carrying the burden of the thing that I'm processing and working on. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with your wife. But most of the time for women, when there's something wrong with their man, their assumption is there's something wrong with the relationship, and that's not always the case. So, man, what can you do? You can let them know. The reason I'm quiet is because I'm frustrated, or I got a lot on my mind with work or something. In fact, this happened in the car to me today. I was driving somewhere with my wife, and I was quiet, and she said, are you upset? And I said, no. And she said, it seems like you are. And I said, I'm not. I'm good. I'm just quiet. And I didn't explain, which I should have, but I was just thinking about some other stuff and what I had to do when we got home and some of that kind of stuff. So I was processing things in my head, and my silence made her think that maybe I was upset or something was wrong. So, men, we have to reassure instead of being silent. I'm good. Even if she is the problem, let her know. Hey, I'm frustrated about something that just happened in a relationship, but I'm still processing my thoughts so I don't say something dumb or hurtful. And so when I processed it, we'll talk about it, but we're good. And that will help them with the silence trigger. And trigger number 4 is emotional depletion. Listen, if your wife is emotionally exhausted, she's going to be more easily triggered. Now, it may have nothing to do with you. Maybe work, maybe the kids, maybe drama with family, maybe drama with friends. But if her emotional tanks are low, she's going to have more of a tendency to be triggered by anything you do in a relationship, especially if it's tied to you. If you're not filling her emotional tank, then there's more likelihood that she's going to be triggered by something else you do negatively. So do you need to fill her tank? Absolutely. But even when it's not something that you're neglecting or lacking in a relationship, her just being tired is going to make her more sensitive to the negative feelings and the questions about, does he really love me? And so when she's emotionally depleted, that can also be a trigger that can create something in a relationship where you're like, I have no idea what's going on. Well, ask her how she's doing emotionally. Is she emotionally worn down? Is there something you can take off her plate? Is there something you can do to help build her up emotionally? So, men, there are 4 triggers that possibly could be the problem that you didn't even know was the problem because you're unaware of what you're doing in a relationship. And when you're aware of it, right, we can do better, we can communicate better, and we can reassure our wives of what's going on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Women, is this accurate? Are there some other triggers that we're not aware of? And men, if you see these, what are you going to do about it? Over communicate and reassure. If we can help you in any area of your relationship, please let us know. We'd love to be part of your relationship journey. And until next time, we'll see you right back here on RelationShots.